Welcome to Royal Insider, where royal secrets, shocking revelations, and the biggest palace controversies come to light. From breaking royal news to the most talked about moments involving Harry, Meghan, William, Catherine, and King Charles, we bring you the stories that have everyone talking. Make sure you're subscribed because the next royal bombshell could drop at any moment. What if one television moment reignited one of the most controversial royal debates of the decade? Tonight, the spotlight is once again on Meghan Markle after a wave of emotional comments and public reactions sent social media into absolute overdrive. But this time, it wasn't just royal watchers weighing in. One of Meghan's most vocal critics, Piers, has stepped directly back into the conversation, and his response is causing a storm of its own. Supporters say Meghan was simply sharing her truth. Critics argue that the latest emotional claims raise more questions than answers. And now, millions of viewers are asking the same thing. Has the public conversation around Meghan reached a breaking point? As clips spread across social media and reaction channels exploded with commentary, Piers delivered a fiery response that immediately divided audiences. Some called it a brutal reality check. Others accused him of going too far. Either way, the clash has reignited old tensions and created a brand new controversy that nobody saw coming. But here's where things get even more surprising. Behind the headlines, a growing debate is emerging about public trust, celebrity narratives, and whether the royal drama that has dominated headlines for years is finally entering a completely new chapter. What exactly did Meghan say? Why did Piers react so strongly? And why are royal fans on both sides suddenly fighting harder than ever before? Stay tuned, because the story behind this latest royal meltdown is far more complicated than the headlines suggest. To understand why this latest controversy has exploded across social media, it's important to look at the long and complicated history behind it. For years, Meghan Markle has remained one of the most talked about figures connected to the British royal family. Every interview, public appearance, podcast episode, documentary project, or personal statement has generated headlines around the world. Few modern public figures have inspired such intense reactions from both supporters and critics. On one side are those who believe Meghan has faced extraordinary pressure while living under constant public scrutiny. They argue that she has repeatedly spoken about difficult experiences, intense media attention, and the personal challenges that came with life in the royal spotlight. On the other side are critics who question some of her public statements and believe that certain interviews and emotional revelations have been strategically timed or presented. These critics often argue that public sympathy has become a major part of the ongoing royal narrative. And standing at the center of many of these debates has been one familiar name, Piers Morgan. The television personality has never hidden his views when it comes to Meghan Markle. Over the years, he has become one of her most outspoken critics, frequently challenging her public claims and questioning the narratives surrounding her media appearances. Their public feud has become almost legendary. Whenever Meghan makes headlines, many viewers immediately wonder how Piers will respond. Whenever Morgan comments on royal issues, supporters and critics alike rush online to debate his perspective. As a result, even the smallest development can quickly become a major media event. That is exactly what appears to have happened this time. Following Meghan's latest emotional remarks during a recent public discussion, clips and reactions began spreading rapidly across social media platforms. Within hours, hashtags related to the story started trending. Comment sections became battlegrounds. YouTube creators, royal commentators, and entertainment outlets all rushed to offer their own interpretations. Some viewers described Meghan's comments as heartfelt and sincere. Others viewed them very differently. The disagreement quickly transformed from a simple celebrity story into a much larger conversation about credibility, public image, and the continuing fascination with royal drama. Then came the moment everyone was waiting for. Piers finally weighed in. And almost immediately, his comments became a headline themselves. Supporters of Meghan accused him of unfair criticism. Supporters of Morgan argued that he was asking legitimate questions. The result was exactly what many observers expected: another major chapter in one of the most polarizing public feuds in modern media. But what nobody expected was how quickly the situation would escalate. Because as reactions continued pouring in, new debates started emerging online. People weren't just discussing Meghan's comments anymore. They were questioning the entire relationship between celebrity, media attention, and public trust. And that growing controversy was about to take the story in an even more dramatic direction. As the online debate intensified, attention quickly shifted away from Meghan Markle's original comments and toward the reaction that followed. Within hours of Piers Morgan addressing the controversy, clips of his remarks began circulating across social media. Supporters praised his willingness to challenge public narratives. Critics accused him of reigniting an already divisive conversation. But regardless of where people stood, one thing was undeniable. Everyone was talking about it. The story rapidly evolved from a discussion about Meghan's emotional statements into a much larger battle over public perception. Comment sections exploded. Reaction videos started appearing everywhere. Royal commentators rushed to television appearances and live streams to share their own interpretations of what had happened. Suddenly, the internet seemed split into two completely different camps. One side argued that Meghan's latest remarks reflected genuine emotion and personal experience. The other side insisted that the public deserved to examine those statements critically. The arguments became louder with every passing hour. Then something unexpected happened. Several prominent commentators who had previously remained neutral began weighing in. Some suggested that the latest controversy reflected a growing fatigue among audiences who had spent years following royal drama. Others argued the exact opposite. They claimed the public remained fascinated because every new chapter seemed to create even more unanswered questions. The debate became increasingly intense. And then came what many online observers described as the first major twist. Instead of focusing entirely on Meghan or Piers Morgan, attention began shifting toward the public itself. People started asking why these stories continue generating such enormous interest. Why do royal controversies dominate headlines? Why do emotional interviews instantly become international news? Why do audiences continue returning to the same debate year after year? These questions triggered a second wave of discussion. Media analysts began examining the broader phenomenon. Content creators started producing videos about public trust and celebrity storytelling. Even individuals who normally avoided royal discussions found themselves joining the conversation. The controversy had become bigger than the people involved. It had transformed into a debate about modern fame itself. And that shift created a surprising problem. Because as the focus widened, neither side appeared satisfied. Supporters felt Meghan was being unfairly scrutinized. Critics felt important questions were still being ignored. The divide only grew larger. Meanwhile, social media algorithms did exactly what they always do during high-profile controversies. They amplified every reaction, every disagreement, every emotional response, every dramatic headline. The result was a cycle that seemed impossible to stop. The more people argued, the more visibility the story received. The more visibility it received, the more people joined the argument. Soon, the controversy had become one of the most discussed royal-related stories online. And yet, according to many observers, the biggest development was still ahead. Because behind the scenes, a new wave of reactions was beginning to emerge. Not from royal insiders. Not from television hosts, but from ordinary viewers who were starting to ask whether this entire saga had reached a turning point. A turning point that could change the public conversation in ways nobody anticipated. And that possibility was about to push the story into an even more dramatic phase. Bigger. Social media platforms were flooded with reaction videos, opinion threads, and heated discussions. Every new post appeared to spark another round of arguments. The story had taken on a life of its own. Some commentators claimed the situation revealed a growing divide between traditional media audiences and younger online viewers. Others argued that the controversy demonstrated just how powerful public narratives can become once they gain momentum. No matter the interpretation, one fact remained clear. People could not stop talking about it. Then came the second major twist. Instead of focusing on the original remarks, many viewers began examining the reactions themselves. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't simply about Meghan. It wasn't even primarily about Piers Morgan. It was about the endless cycle of controversy that seems to surround every royal-related headline. Questions began appearing everywhere. Were audiences becoming exhausted by the constant drama? Or were they more invested than ever before? Had public opinion changed over time? Or had people simply become more divided? The answers depended entirely on who was being asked. That uncertainty fueled even more speculation. Every poll sparked arguments. Every trending topic created fresh debates. Every new headline generated thousands of additional comments. As the controversy intensified, media outlets started covering not only the original story but also the public reaction to the reaction. The situation had become a story about a story. And that is when many observers noticed something unusual. A growing number of viewers were expressing frustration, not necessarily with any single person involved, but with the endless nature of the conflict itself. Some believed the public conversation had become trapped in a loop. The same disputes, the same arguments, the same opposing sides, repeating again and again. Others strongly disagreed. They argued that ongoing scrutiny is inevitable whenever high-profile public figures make major statements. The divide continued to widen. Meanwhile, supporters on both sides became increasingly vocal. Posts defending Meghan attracted enormous engagement. Posts supporting Piers Morgan generated equally passionate responses. Every opinion seemed to trigger another wave of counterarguments. The controversy was no longer slowing down. It was accelerating. And just when it seemed impossible for tensions to rise any further, another development changed the conversation once again. Several prominent commentators suggested that the real significance of the story wasn't who was right or wrong. Instead, they argued that the controversy revealed something deeper about modern media culture. A culture where public figures, commentators, and audiences all influence the narrative at the same time. A culture where reactions often become bigger than the original event. A culture where attention itself becomes the most valuable currency. That observation struck a nerve. Because suddenly, people weren't just debating Meghan Markle or Piers Morgan anymore. They were debating the entire system that turns every disagreement into a global headline. And as that realization spread, many began wondering whether the latest royal controversy might represent a turning point. Not just for the individuals involved, but for the audience watching from the sidelines. Yet even as that discussion gained momentum, one final question remained unanswered. Had this controversy actually changed anyone's mind? Or had it simply reinforced positions that people already held? The answer to that question would soon become the focus of the next explosive chapter. And the public fallout was only beginning. Comment sections. Content creators produced hour-long breakdowns. Royal watchers dissected every statement, every reaction, and every headline. The divide between opposing viewpoints appeared larger than ever. For supporters of Meghan Markle, the situation felt frustrating. Many believed her comments had been taken out of context and transformed into something much bigger than originally intended. They argued that every public statement she makes is placed under a microscope unlike that faced by most public figures. According to this perspective, the latest controversy reflected a pattern that has followed Meghan for years. Meanwhile, critics viewed the situation very differently. They argued that public figures who make major claims should expect scrutiny and debate. In their view, questioning public narratives is a normal part of media discussion. These opposing perspectives collided daily across social media. Neither side appeared willing to back down. The emotional intensity became impossible to miss. Some viewers admitted feeling exhausted by the constant cycle of royal drama. Others confessed they remained completely fascinated by every new development. And perhaps that was the most revealing aspect of the entire situation. Despite years of headlines, interviews, documentaries, and controversies, public interest remained remarkably strong. People were still watching, still debating, still choosing sides, still searching for answers. That reality led many commentators to a surprising conclusion. The story was no longer just about Meghan Markle. It was no longer just about Piers Morgan. It had become a symbol of something larger. A symbol of how modern audiences consume controversy. A symbol of how public trust is built, challenged, and debated in real time. A symbol of how social media can transform a single moment into a global conversation. As these discussions continued, another emotional layer emerged. Many longtime royal observers began reflecting on how dramatically public discourse had changed over the past decade. Years ago, major debates were largely confined to newspapers and television programs. Today, millions of people participate instantly. Every viewer can become a commentator. Every opinion can become a trending topic. Every disagreement can become a viral moment. The result is a media environment unlike anything seen before. And nowhere was that more visible than in this latest controversy. By now, the original comments had almost become secondary. The reaction had become the story. The debate had become the headline. The public response had become the main event. Yet beneath all the arguments, one important question continued lingering in the background. Where does the story go from here? Would tensions eventually cool down? Would another royal headline replace this one? Or had something fundamentally changed in the relationship between public figures, commentators, and audiences? Nobody seemed certain. But one thing was becoming increasingly clear. The next chapter could prove even more significant than the controversy that started it all. Because as public attention remained firmly locked on the story, new speculation was beginning to emerge. Speculation that could reshape the conversation yet again. And if those predictions proved correct, the final twist might be the most surprising development of all. Just when it seemed that every possible angle of the controversy had already been explored, a surprising new theory began gaining momentum online. It wasn't a statement from Meghan Markle. It wasn't a comment from Piers Morgan. And it wasn't even a new royal headline. Instead, the theory focused on something much bigger. The audience itself. As analysts, commentators, and longtime royal observers looked at the enormous reaction surrounding the story, many started asking a question that few had considered before. What if the real story was never the controversy? What if the real story was the public's response to it? The idea quickly spread across social media. Some argued that modern audiences have become active participants in creating headlines rather than simply consuming them. Others suggested that public attention has become the most powerful force in entertainment and media. Without audience engagement, controversies fade. With audience engagement, they become global events. That realization caused many viewers to look at the situation differently. Suddenly, the debate wasn't just about who was right. It wasn't just about who was wrong. It was about why millions of people remained invested in the conversation after so many years. The more people discussed that question, the more fascinating the story became. Some believed public interest was finally reaching a turning point. Others believed the royal drama was entering an entirely new era. And that possibility created one final mystery. Because nobody knows what comes next. Will Meghan Markle address the latest controversy again? Will Piers Morgan respond to future developments? Will public opinion shift in a meaningful way? Or will the cycle continue exactly as it has before? At this moment, nobody can say for certain. But history suggests one thing. Whenever people think the story is over, another unexpected chapter often appears. Another headline. Another reaction. Another debate. Another controversy. And if that pattern continues, today's drama may end up being remembered as only the beginning of a much larger conversation. For now, audiences around the world are left waiting. Waiting for the next statement. Waiting for the next reaction. Waiting for the next headline that could change everything once again. And until that moment arrives, the questions remain unanswered. The debate remains active. And the story remains far from over. What do you think about this latest controversy? Do you believe the public debate surrounding Meghan Markle has changed over time, or do you think people remain as divided as ever? And what was your reaction to Piers Morgan's comments? Share your thoughts in the comments below because this conversation is clearly far from over, and we want to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss any future royal updates, breaking developments, and major controversies as they unfold. Your support helps us continue bringing you the biggest stories, the latest reactions, and the most talked about royal headlines from around the world. And remember, in the world of royal drama, one unexpected headline can change everything overnight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.